Call to order the 2 August 2023 Planning Commission meeting. We call the order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rogers.
Present.
Mr. Rogers represents the Berkeley District. Ms. Knoll.
Present.
Ms. Knoll represents the Stonehouse District. Mr. Rose, who represents the Roberts District and is vice chair to the commission, could not be with us this evening. Mr. Haldeman.
Here.
Mr. Haldeman is an at-large member. Mr. O'Connor.
Here.
Mr. O'Connor is an at-large member. Mr. Kropp.
Here.
Mr. Kropp represents the Powhatan District. Mr. Polster.
Here.
Mr. Polster represents the Jamestown District and is chair of the commission. I'm Paul Holt, Director of Community Development and Planning for the county. It's my pleasure to serve as Planning Commission Secretary. Sitting to my left this evening is Ms. Liz Parman, our Deputy County Attorney. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, our first item is public comment, and these are topics that are not subject to a public hearing, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do not.
Is there anybody wishing to speak in the public comment period? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Reports of the commission, Mr. Rogers, DRC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Development Review Committee met on July 19, 2023, and present was myself, the chair, Barbara Knoll, and you, sir, Frank Polster. We also had some staff members present, Thomas Wysong, John Reisinger, and Armani Franklin. At that meeting, we discussed C-TAC 23, TAC 0036, which is the 1821 Jamestown Road, a proposed Jamestown Road Powhatan Ridge subdivision. The affected parcel, if developed, is located inside the primary service area. It's approximately 66 acres in size. Only 18.5 of those acres are considered developable, 47.77 acres being non-developable. The parcel is zoned R8, rural residential, LB, limited business, and is designated low-density residential LDR according to our 2045 comprehensive plan. The subdivision application is currently under review by agency and county staff in order to assess compliance with county code and other regulations. The applicant requested that we put the item on our DRC agenda as part of their initial review process to seek our input and to answer any questions. And during that meeting, we expressed a number of concerns about several factors we on the DRC thought would affect the current and the future residents in and around that property. We also discussed effects on the local school system and the environmental land development that would possibly be developed. Their plan for the property would consist of approximately 61 units. We asked 61 units or less based off the Board of Supervisors' decision to approve a change in the density calculation that does not include the steep slopes on a parcel that are non-developable. They're proposing a cluster development should they get a change in that R8. We asked about those clusters, about what appeared to us to be very close roads without perhaps enough room for emergency vehicles or enough parking to accommodate 3 and 4 bedroom homes with a 2-car garage. We also spent quite a bit of time discussing the Powhatan watershed and how it may be affected by that proposed subdivision. We noted that the particular subdivision has quite a few steep slopes involved. It also sits directly north of the Jamestown 1607 development, which has historically had many water issues. As this was a discussion item, there was no action and there were no votes to be required. And subject to your questions, that concludes my minutes.
Questions for Mr. Rogers? Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and the consent agenda items are deemed to be non-controversial. Does anybody wish to pull any of the items on the agenda? We have the minutes. If not, can I get a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we're off to our first public hearing. Item SUP 23-0018, Grove Christian Outreach Center, SUP amendment. Mr. Laubacher, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. Ms. Katie Patrick has submitted a request to amend a special use permit, case number SUP 0014-2010 to allow the existing outreach center to operate as the primary use due to the growth of the outreach center space needs exceeding those defined in SUP-0014-2010. The subject property is located at 8800 Pocahontas Trail, zoned LB, limited business, classified as neighborhood commercial on the 2045 comprehensive plan, and located inside of the primary service area. Staff finds the proposed conditions will mitigate impacts to surrounding zoning and development, or surrounding properties and development. Staff also finds that this proposal is compatible with surrounding zoning and development and is generally consistent with the 2045 comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of this application to the Board of Supervisors, subject to the proposed conditions. Please note, however, that staff recommends a minor amendment to Condition 1 to carry over existing language from SUP-0014-2010 regarding the ability to expand the existing structure to 8,400 square feet in the future. This language is not currently in the version in the Commission's packet, and this item was brought to staff's attention by the applicant. Thank you for your time this evening, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is available as well.
Forgive me, would you repeat that, the condition, the amended condition?
Of course, yeah. Please note, however, that staff recommends a minor amendment to Condition 1 to carry over existing language from SUP-0014-2010 regarding the ability to expand the existing structure to 8,400 square feet in the future. This language is not currently in the version in the Commission's packet, and this was brought to staff's attention by the applicant.
So, Mr. Haldeman, it really is just sort of a double check to make sure the condition is very clear. The condition, as we brought it forward, really represents just the master plan without explicitly referencing that previously approved square footage. And so, just so that doesn't get lost to time and inevitable loss of corporate knowledge, thought it'd be a good idea to bring that forward should this be approved by the board. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I have one just as a follow-on. I asked you about the existing community church folks, and you indicated that they were moving to the Mount Calvary Church of the Seventh Day, but you had no idea when that was going to happen, except that the clock was ticking on the 90 days. So the two questions is how many people are part of that church that are moving?
I will defer to the applicant regarding the amount of people that are in that church. That's something that staff would have to reach out to the church directly to figure out exactly how many members are in their congregation.
Did you say the applicant may know?
Okay. The applicant may know.
Okay, the second one is the 90-day clock. When did that start?
That started, I'll defer to the applicant, but I believe it was in May. However, the applicant informed me tonight that the church has already moved to that space.
Oh, it has?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's what I wanted to make sure. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so does the applicant wish to speak? Oh, a speaker's card, I'm sorry.
Oh, we don't, but if you could have one to open.
All right,
the public
let
hearing.
me open the public hearing. And is there anybody that wishes to speak on this item?
Yes, Katie.
Please.
Yeah, we have prepared a presentation for the commission. Thank you, Beth.
You please tell us your name and your address, please.
Yes,
For
sir.
the record.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm Katie Patrick, Executive Director of Grove Christian Outreach Center at 8800 Pocahontas Trail, Williamsburg. Thank you for the opportunity to give a brief presentation about the Outreach Center and the work that we do there. This cause has come before the commission. Let me make sure that this works. Beth?
Roll the
There we go. Okay. Because of the expansion of services to families living in James City County. And to briefly discuss some of those expansion opportunities, I'd like to also remind you that our mission at Grove Christian Outreach Center is to foster relationships through love and grace in order to improve the overall health of the Grove community. Neighbors in Grove which you are all familiar with where it is actually located. I noted that on the master plan map that was up before ours. But we always like to show that because many in James City County are not aware of where Grove is actually located. Grove is made up of approximately 1,300 households. 48% of those are mobile homes, and that equates to almost 80% of the total mobile homes in James City County. Mobile home living is an indicator of poverty due to the inability for these homes to adequately keep or retain heat or cooling, depending on the time of year, as well as expenses that are well beyond what one might expect with a brick and mortar home for what we've unkindly sometimes referred to as a tin box. They're just not wonderful. They're not very energy efficient. 33% of the youth that live in Grove are facing poverty, and approximately 22% of seniors living in Grove are living at or below poverty levels. The work that we do to help assist those families maintain healthy lifestyles include a food pantry that includes a fresh food room. In the fresh food room, which is a new program in 2021, we offer fresh produce, bread, prepared meal items, an abundant quantity of vegetables and fruits from our friends at Kelray Farms. We have USDA boxes that include non-perishable items. We also supply families with household goods and diapers for babies. There are many other programs that are included in the PowerPoint presentation that all of you have received, and I will hope that you'll review that at your leisure going forward. If you ever have any questions about the programs provided by Grove Christian Outreach Center, we're definitely glad to answer them for you. And this is just an illustration of what a typical week looks like at Grove Christian Outreach Center, which includes meetings by Literacy for Life, the Good News Club, School Health Initiative Program, which is a part of Williamsburg. James City County has programming at the Outreach Center. We also partner with Heritage Humane Society to ensure families in Grove have what they need for their pets at home. We provide senior programs, including bingo once a month, to address senior isolation issues that were identified. And we have a back-to-school carnival as well as an end-of-school-year carnival and holiday programs throughout the year. These programs are much greater than what existed when the Outreach Center was built and opened in 2013. It is interesting to note that at the time the building was opened, they were serving approximately 200 households each month through their food pantry program, and we are now serving over 200 households each week through our food pantry programs. The space utilization, if you've been to the Outreach Center, you've seen that it is definitely lacking the ability to add any other storage, and we need more storage for the programs that we have in place for families, and that is how we have ended up with asking for an amendment to our SUP. We have already expanded client services, and we do anticipate further growth to further reach families with educational, financial literacy opportunities in partnership with Virginia Peninsula Community College and other partners that we work with. And a summary just to say that Grove is an active, energetic center. It is for the Grove area. We have expanded to Greater Williamsburg. We have very robust community engagement for residents and volunteers that represent a wide variety of demographic groups in and around the Grove community. We strive to serve our residents and foster relationships by creating a community space that is always welcoming, accessible, and sustainable. And I would love to answer any further questions that you might have, and I can confirm that Grove Community Church did move out this past Sunday, and my understanding without being a member of the church is that they have approximately 30 members, and 1/3 of those are Grove residents.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Are there any other speakers that wish to speak on this item? If not, I will close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion with plan commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval for SUP-23-0018 Grove Christian Outreach Center SUP amendment with conditions.
Thank you. Mr. Holt?
Mr. Crop.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Haldeman.
Aye.
Ms. Knoll. Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
And Mr. Polster.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Our next item on our agenda is SUP 23-0019, 213 Southpoint Drive, Detached Accessory Apartment. Ms. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Mr. Jason Buckley of Promark Custom Homes has applied for a special use permit to allow a detached accessory apartment to be constructed within a detached accessory structure. The property is located at 213 Southpoint Drive, zoned R1 Limited Residential, and is designated Low Density Residential on the 2045 Comprehensive Plan Land Use Map. The detached garage will be approximately 1,728 square feet, and the proposed apartment will be 399 square feet, which is approximately 23% of the total floor area. The R1 zoning district allows detached accessory apartments as a specially permitted use in accordance with Section 24-32B of the James City County Zoning Ordinance. Staff has reviewed the proposed design and finds that all requirements have been met. Staff finds this proposal to be compatible with surrounding development and consistent with the 2045 Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Ordinance. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of this application to the Board of Supervisors, subject to the proposed conditions. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is also available. Thank you.
Questions for staff or the applicant? I will open the public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? If not, I will close the public hearing and open it up for discussion with commissioners or a motion.
Chairman, I recommend approval of special use permit 23-0019, briefed by staff.
Are there any conditions? No.
And the associated conditions, I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the floor, Mr. Holt.
Mr. Crop.
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor.
Aye.
Mr. Haldeman.
Aye.
Ms. Knoll.
Aye.
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
And Mr. Polster.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
So the next item on our agenda is the Planning Commission's considerations report. And Mr. Kraft, I have you down for the October or September?
September.
September the 12th.
Yes,
report.
sir.
Are there any considerations or requests? If not, we'll go to the Planning Director's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I would be remiss, I think we've included this notice in a couple of spots now, including a press release by the county earlier and an announcement by the county administrator last week. Once again, pleased to announce that the National Association of Counties has presented to James City County the Best in Category Award for our 2045 Comprehensive Plan. We competed on a national basis. This is an organization that represents all of the counties at a nationwide, across the U.S. And I think the breadth and extent of our comprehensive plan update was well received and well represented. I think a lot of the features that really made ours stand out, of course, were the inclusion of some of the land use scenario planning models, some of the fiscal impact models, the transportation models, all at a time when we were still working with COVID, and you know how that was able to impact our ability to adapt and still get citizen input. I think that was a really big feature, and the team adapted really, really well and made use of some new technology that allowed for a lot of remote participation, a lot of remote visualization, so that we didn't have to all get around some drawings in a middle school gym and look at them like we've traditionally done. We were able to do that online, and I think since a lot of those input opportunities were made available 24/7 while they were open, I think that really helped get a lot of citizen input. Well, you know, certainly a reflection on planning staff. Really, all of the staff in the county, kind of from all departments, comes together to work on that, and certainly planning staff did the yeoman's lifting, but really would be remiss, obviously, if didn't take some time to recognize, obviously, certainly, and most importantly, the citizens and residents of James City County for taking the time to adapt with us and still find the time and the mean and the ways to provide input into this future long-range growth plan that the county has. But then too, staff got really good at producing those 200-page agenda packets every week, but it was the Planning Commission Working Group that read that, distilled it, debated it, worked through that very, very well, and was back supported by the CPT. That's the group that really is instrumental to ensuring that we do as much outreach as we possibly can. So once again, it's just a really big group effort, as it is every 5 years, and it's nice to be recognized on the national stage this year out of Texas. So thank you for that.
Questions?
When do we start the next one?
Not have a real answer for you for that tonight. Soon enough, I'm sure we'll be.
Kind of took your breath away, didn't it?
A little bit. We still have some ordinance amendments we want to get done first to further some of the implementation and some of the GSAs of the 2045 plan. But yeah, it'll be here before we know it. We try to stay roughly on that 5-year window. But again, I think with what I know now, I think we are going to probably spend some time in calendar year 24 and 25 continuing some ordinance updates. So more to come.
Okay, the last item is Planning Commission discussion and requests. Any items for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, you and I attended the Yarmouth Creek Watershed draft planning session, public session, Monday night. And just a reminder, they're still eliciting public comment for that. The plan can be found on the website. And they're all important, but this is still a mostly unimpaired watershed, and so community input would be very important.
I also wanted to mention that, and if you all recall from our last discussion on the Powhatan Creek piece, the notion of the impervious surface, and I've passed out the current and the future for the Yarmouth. And the point that I wanted to make here was that I was reading an article that talked about the critique of local watershed plans, 11 reasons of why watershed plans end up on the shelf. And number 4, plans skirted the real issue about land use changes in the watershed. Few watershed plans actually attempt to directly measure or forecast cumulative impacts based on impervious cover, and therefore could not directly test whether the watershed plan would actually mitigate or prevent cumulative impacts. I think Jack and I are about giving up on the Powhatan for the state that it's in. But the Powhatan, the Yarmouth and the Diaskin we're going to do is a different story. So I passed out what is current and what the future projection. What was interesting in the meeting that we went to was they actually highlighted the specific things that they found in colonial heritage, in Tohana Woods, and throughout that the Croker area, as well as the Candlestick areas there. And so the reason I point that out is that if you took a look at the implementation plan for the Powhatan Creek, I don't know that we can even afford it, or whether the outcome of what we're going to do is going to mitigate the problem because of where it is right now. I don't feel that way about the Yarmouth or the Diaskin for it. And so I think that as we go through that and see more of that, it really does come back down to the land use and the densities that we're talking about. And so I think we made a rather conscious decision, at least with the majority as we went through the comp plan, to limit growth in certain areas in that area, as well as trying to preserve the rural area. And so if we start to getting in applications that take us from low density residential and tries to increase that density on that, I think we're just asking to make sure that this thing really does occur in the future. I will say this, that when you take a look at the Yarmouth, especially in two areas, the Wrights Island area, which is now in a conservation easement. It's probably around 3 or 2% in terms of its the impervious surface cover impact. And so the more growth we have, the more problems we're going to have down in those areas. And it's that cumulative impact that I think ends up. The other bad news story that we heard on that is the Chickahominy Haven with the flooding and sea level rise. And of course, the insurance rates, I'm sure you've seen, that are going to be increasing for flood. Even with our 25% increase, it's going to make insurance almost unaffordable for some of the homeowners in these areas that are impacted for it. So those are some of the things I think that are coming out. We'll see more of it as we go through the summer. But I think, Jack, do you want to make any comment on the land use piece?
Well, I thought your point number 4 did say that. The Powhatan watershed was identified as impaired in 1998, and there was a watershed management plan put in place in 2001 that was never fully implemented. And there's been enormous growth in impervious cover in the Powhatan watershed since then. So everybody saw this coming, but there really weren't, I don't know if it's the will or the resources to do anything about it. And as a result, we have a watershed in the central part of our county, the largest of our 11 watersheds, that in my opinion is hopelessly ruined. I don't think it's mitigatable. And the cause is very clear to me, I think to everybody. And if it happens to the rural watersheds, the Yarmouth and the Diaskin and the Ware, and it'd be tragic, that's all, because we all know the cause. We can all see it coming, and it's not too late to do something about it.
I guess my last comment is when we went through the CIP program for our stormwater that we approved, it's about $12 million. And I'm not sure what we got out of that money or what we will get out of that money. So when I look at the problems that I know that we have within the Yarmouth, I know that we have a rather robust neighborhood drainage program that's now doing more sharing for upgrades of BMPs and repairs for that, especially for neighborhoods that do not have an HOA, and the county has stepped into there. So I think there's a way to at least to start to mitigate those problems that are going to come out of the Yarmouth in those neighborhoods, to not make sure that it doesn't end up as the Powhatan. So I think, I'm hoping that when we get to the prioritization of this thing, and the staff has had a chance to get through the Powhatan, Yarmouth, and the Diaskin, and they look at those strategic action plans that actually talk about first year, second year, third year, that we take an approach on trying to at least save the areas and focus on the areas that maybe we can do something about on it. And you know, that's besides the changes to some of the standards and things like that for it. So I'll just leave it at that, but I thought it was worthwhile for us to kind of talk about that a little bit. Any more comments on this? If not, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.